What up? What up? What up, y'all? Coach Benny here again, Out the Mud podcast, week 2 recap from college football, the games that took place yesterday. If you go, always again, start out by always saying the same. Make sure that you continue to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Again, Out the Mud is a product that is growing, is a sleeping giant. And I'm going to continue to prepare, with content for y'all. I always ask y'all to please show some love to the page on Instagram, out the mud podcast, as well as my personal Instagram, call him coach. They'll be dropping some football content for y'all, as well. But I'm jumping right in because, yesterday, I think college football just continues to just produce games. And I'm talking like games. Like these young bulls really like I love college football for reasons like yesterday, but I want to hit on a couple key points because, again, it is NFL Sunday today, what I'm saying, a full slate of games. NFL is officially back. But we're gonna close the door on college football from yesterday's games. And in particular, you see the handle, Texas, like Texas, as coming from a Georgia fan, y'all. Y'all, like I was rocking with y'all so hard yesterday. Um, and just I just got a couple questions, okay? Because here's my thing with what I saw yesterday with Texas. First of all, if you go back and watch my previous video, as makeshift as it was, and again, I do apologize. Um, I mentioned the keys that Texas needed to have to win the game. I talked about them needing to be, you know, not just be dimensional, leaning on Bijan Robinson. They needed to create some eye candy for Alabama. Play with different tempo. Don't just line up and try to play football because that wasn't going to get them the win. And they did all of those things. I mean, the quarterback, before his injury was going, nuts. I mean, he looked super comfortable back there in the pocket all the whole game up until he got hurt. I think Bijan had about 3 carries up until his touchdown. He had like 3 carries. A lot of it was just the quarterback making plays. Two in particular plays I want to hit on. Whoever number 8 is for Texas, you know, I know you ended up having a really good game and you made a lot of plays in the second part of the game, but my man, you got to be aggressive when the ball's in the air. I tell my receivers that all the time. Anybody that's coaching receivers, you make sure that if there's any philosophy as a receivers coach, as a receiver, you should have is you need to appreciate the football. All right, appreciate the football. What I mean by that is when the ball's in the air, you have to do everything in your power to maximize the opportunity to appreciate that football. And there was 2 particular plays where number 8 for Texas, it was one early in the game, I think on a fade, when they got a PI call. The ball lands like 2 yards in front of them. You go get that football. Texas is on the goal line. Now you get the catch and you get the penalty. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Go get the football, and then again there's the second drive. They throw a post to him. He lays out, which we love to see. But you got to get the football. You got to appreciate the football. You know what I'm saying? A catch is a catch is a catch, and I thought he was. Those 2 plays defined it. Early in the game, that could have put the game. That could have put Bama on their heels early. But what I really want to hit on is one in particular play with Texas because, again, I thought outside of their defense, giving up that 80-something yard run, which was really the play. So if you go and follow me on Instagram at call him coach on Instagram, I break down, the 80-yard run that the running back for Alabama had. And it was just an outside zone. It was a simple outside zone stretch play, want to get flowing, get the defense to flow a little bit, maybe get somebody to over pursue to create a cutback. But if you look at the play and you analyze the play, Texas was in the perfect defense. They had all the gaps covered. And literally the linebacker, the middle linebacker, the Mike linebacker, number 41, is hesitating with an entire wide open alleyway that he could have made a play. And by hesitating and by taking that half a step, My man hits the hole. He gets outside. He reaches. They were able to reach the end, and he busted for an 89-yard run. But at 41, all you have to do is just shoot the alley, and you make the play. That 1 second, that one hesitation, you open the floodgates. So there was that. Um, and again, shout out to the defense of Texas. They put on yesterday. But listen, one in particular play, Steve Sarkis, head coach of Texas, he had a really solid game plan. It was unfortunate that his quarterback got hurt, but when you have an All-American running back, you have Alabama reeling, the number one team in the nation reeling. You have a great game plan, and the team, is reeling, is tied going right before half, and you get all the way down to the 2. What in y'all right mind would give y'all any reason to want to run a sprint out? With you have no timeouts. You have no timeouts with 11 seconds. Now, I understand that, analytics plays a role in everything. I understand that, you got a lot of different voices in your ear as a head coach with things to do. You got to, default to coordinators. But at the end of the day, players make the plays. And you have an All-American running back, a Heisman Trophy candidate in your backfield. The number one team in the nation is reeling. Why would you not just hand the ball off? He already then scored on the goal line previously. Why would you not take advantage of that and give that man the football and let that man go score a touchdown? You're tied 10-10. You get the ball at half. Remember, Texas deferred to the second half. Bama got the ball to start the game. So you get the ball at half. You've already driven down the field. You got a couple penalties. Bama's reeling, and it's like 110 degrees on the field, and you got an All-American running back. Analytics is out the window for me. You give the ball to your All-American running back, and you go up 17-10 at half. But what you did was, and what kills me about coaches, and especially, like all coaches, collegiately, NFL, you get too caught up in the analytics. Just play football. Just play football. Trust the players you got, and just line up and play football. Because what happens was you call a sprint out. A sprint out takes about 6 to 8 seconds to develop, because you got to get the snap. Quarterback has to roll out. He's got to escape the pocket. The receiver, which on that play, he was running a comeback, a goal line comeback. So that takes time. And it's got to be a perfect throw. So you got about 8 to 9 seconds going already. It takes about 4 to 6 seconds to run an inside zone, to run right up the middle, whatever you want to do. So if you would have called a running play, either Bijan scores and you go up 17-10, and now you really got Alabama on your heels, because now you get the ball back at half, and now you can control the tempo and the pace of the game. Or if you're going to throw it, you throw a fade route to the boundary or to the field, either one you want to go. But that takes about 4 to 6 seconds to run. It's a catch and throw. You don't call a sprint out with 11 seconds with an All-American running back in your backfield. It made no sense. And then what happens from that, and this is how God works. What happens from that is that you kick a field goal, and to me, field goals are like the most you bet on black when you're trying to kick a field goal at any point in the game, as far as if you want to get a score, because there's so many variables that goes into a field goal. You got to have a good snap, you got to have a good hold. The kicker's got to get the ball off. You got to have good block, and it can't get blocked. And all those things went against Texas, because he shanks the field goal. Now you're out points because you tried to trust the analytics. Now it's 10-10. Bama, you get the ball at half with a backup quarterback, I might add, who, he did what he had to do, but he played like a backup quarterback. The starter was clearly comfortable controlling the game. He was throwing that thing around, and they had no answer for their starting quarterback. Unfortunately, he got hurt. And then, so it was just tough. Texas had so many opportunities to put the knife in Alabama. and to me, I still believe that Bama needs to be punished for that, because you still you yes you won. And I mean, if you want to rank the team, then rank Bryce Young number one, because that kid is different. He's a different. Yeah, he's different. I can't even. That's about as good as I could put it. That kid is different. He's special. He single handedly won that game because there was nothing else going for Alabama. I mean, defensively, Texas played is about as good as defense as you could possibly play, and I think they exposed a lot of things. But I've said, as a Georgia fan, learning from last year is that the way to defeat Alabama is you have to get after Bryce Young. You have to make him uncomfortable. You have to hit him, get him to move around in the pocket, get him to make second and third reads, and because if he can sit back there and just pick you apart, if you give him time, that's what he's gonna do. And I thought Texas adjusted to that once they stabilized Alabama's run game. They were able to just pin their ears back and go get Bryce Young. And to me, again, you look at the box score. I think Bam ended with like 14 penalties. Will Anderson had four himself. So it's like Texas had all the opportunity to steal that game. And again, I think that Bama, they won. They definitely won. But I in my rankings, I would put Georgia one. Probably put Bama at, or actually I would probably put Ohio State at two and Bama at three. I think Bama should be punished for this loss or for this win. I think the committee, especially with everything that went on yesterday, I think that Bama, Georgia, and Ohio State are the best three teams right now. And then you can make a case for USC at four. They look really good, but I don't think Bama deserves that number one ranking. And I mean, I'm not big on rankings right now. I mean, I only really care about them, once we get to the end of the season with the college football playoff. But yeah, that was an ugly win. Shout out to Texas. It's just I don't understand why. If I'm Bijan Robinson, I'm walking in the coach's office today, and I'm like, yeah, somebody gotta throw me cut me a check for some more NIL money or something, because y'all wasting y'all just cost me a check. I mean, you on the 2 yard line, All American running back, you feed him. Simple as that. But that closes the door on Texas and Alabama. Now, I actually before we do that, let me backtrack. I need y'all to tag Joel Klatt. Because Joel Klatt is my dog. I listen to him all the time. Make sure y'all watch the Joel Klatt podcast, Joel Klatt show. He be on with Colin Coward, and that's kind of where I get all my college football, information from him. He's very astute. But Mr. Klatt, I got a beef with you because it was a period in that game. You always commentate. I always like watching you and listening to you commentate the games with Gus Johnson, because you do a great job of breaking everything down, and you know a lot about the players and things like that, stuff that we don't know. So as a fan of football, and as a former coach, I appreciate that. But I got to get on you about this, because there was a moment in that game where Bama's backed up. They're at like the 2 yard line. Bryce Young gets sacked in the end zone. It's a safety, and clearly a safety. They called the flag for targeting, which to me was a horrible call. They ended up reversing it, and then they tried to say that it was they had it as intentional grounding. I think it was intentional grounding. It was or no, it was roughing the passer, and it was targeting. Neither happened. The ball got sacked. He got sacked. He got sacked. He tried to throw the ball in the back of the end zone. By rule, it's a safety. But Joel Klatt goes on to say that he believed that he tried to argue the fact that it was targeting. Now, Joel, you've been playing the game, you've been watching the game, studying the game, very astute, in my opinion, with your synopsis on football. But in your right mind, if you really like, if just like put the reporter hat down for a minute and just watch football, do you really believe that was targeting? But let's just have an honest conversation. Do you really thoroughly believe that was targeting? Because if you do, then I question some of the football IQ that you got, or you were just being a homer for quarterbacks. Because I know you play quarterback, but that I know you interviewed Bryce Young. Even though y'all network don't support SEC games, you was hype on Bryce Young, as you should. I mean, he's definitely like that. But like, Like, let's be real, bro. That was not targeting. It was a terrible call. Gus Johnson even said that's your man's. He even said, like, Joe, that wasn't targeting. And you tried to argue that call. So, like, if you see this, which you probably won't, but hopefully my followers and people that subscribe tag you, tag Joel KLATT Show. Uh, yeah, I need my one-on-one because like you really like you had me like I'm over here like yo Joe like you bro you Chris Webber you like you really thought that that was targeting. I couldn't believe when I'm listening to you like yo Joe really think this is targeting. It clearly wasn't targeting. It clearly wasn't roughing the passer. He got sacked and it should have been a safety. Alabama won by one. A safety's worth two. Do the math. So either Nick Saban has great direct deposit, PayPal or whatever, to pay off these refs in the middle of the game, or something was going on in Austin, on the field where they were talking to this one, and it was some. I mean, I was a lot of the penalties that should have been called weren't. That one was a terrible call, and it cost Texas the game. It was a significant play in the game. I ain't gonna say it cost him the game. What cost him the game was not giving it to Bijan on the goal line before half. But yeah, Joel, you got to see me because that was I was very. I don't know what you were watching. I don't know what you thought you saw. With your with your IQ of football. And as a fan of yours, I was thoroughly disappointed with your take on that because you and I know as well as everybody that was watching that game knows that that was a clear sack fumble or sack, intentional ground, whatever you want. Either way, it was in the end zone. It should have been a safety. Texas should have had 2 points. Now, so now I'm gonna put that away. Marcus Freeman, my man, as an African American, as a coach, a former African American coach, I always root for my brothers. I'm like Stephen A. I want all my brothers to win, but I I don't know what we're gonna do with that, man. That's a tough one to come back from. I mean, shout out to Marshall too. Give Marshall a lot of credit. They came in and played. They had a great game plan, and I don't know if it was the I don't know if it was the hangover from Ohio State or if it was I don't know. I don't know, but I was rooting for Marcus Freeman in the beginning of the season, and now as painfully as it's going to be for me to say this, yeah, he's looking going to look like he's going to be a guy, and I hope I'm wrong. I'm gonna just preface by saying I hope I'm wrong about this, because he's an exceptional coach, but he's a guy that I think is going to get the the brunt of being a minority head football coach because the leashes is a lot shorter. And in that environment in Notre Dame, with their prestige and their history, it's even that leash is probably even shorter. Um, but again, I hope I'm wrong. But give Marshall a lot of credit. They also have an African American coach, Charles Huff. Great job. Shout out to him. In the herd. As a West Virginian that played in West Virginia State. I was 45 minutes from Marshall. And I'm, that shout out to them. Great win, but yeah, Marcus. I feel for you, but today, brother, because that's tough. You should have you played a very solid game against Ohio State. Your guys seemed motivated, and they came out and did their thing, even in a losing effort. And I had y'all still challenging for the college football playoff based off of that performance alone. But now I'm starting to think that like I said, that leash has probably gotten a lot shorter for you. With that loss yesterday to Marshall. As painfully as it is for me to say that. Um, but yeah, crazy game. I mean, Texas A&M going down to App State. You know, and as a fan, I'm stressing because like I was looking forward to these matchups as they were brewing, Bama and then Texas A&M and Florida, Georgia. And I was praying that Florida was able to pull it out against Kentucky yesterday, because that just beefs up, like I've been saying, the argument for us, in that game in our schedule, two potential top five teams. Florida wins that game, they jump into the top five, I think. And then they just kind of have to just hold it down until, they get to Jacksonville and play Georgia. But, they lost yesterday to 20 Kentucky. And they're probably going to fall in the rankings. And then, A&M just losing to App State. Like, your kicker, I mean, you got all this NIL money. You couldn't pay for a better kicker. Like, the bull, he didn't even, like, it didn't even touch the end zone. Like come on, Jimbo. Like, what are we doing? That was a bad loss for Texas A&M. It's just bad losses altogether. Wisconsin falling, um, even Ohio State. Giving up 12 points to Arkansas State. I had y'all in my last video. I had the spread was 45. I thought y'all was going to win 56-3. 66-7. You should give up 12 points to Arkansas State. Really, Ryan Day. Yeah, man. I mean, shout out to Georgia. We beat Sanford. Everybody knew that. Play Kent State next week. You might as well not even play your starters. But yeah, like, it just was bad football, man. I love hearing the stories. I love seeing the upsets, but I'm like, the upsets is killing the game, because the we want to see those undefeated A&M Alabama matchups, those undefeated Georgia Florida matchups. We want to see those, the undefeated Ohio State Michigans. That's what we like. That's what we as fans want to see. And now what y'all getting chopping up the top 10. I don't know. Shout out to USC. Maybe USC will climb to the top four. And I don't know who they play. They don't really play a lot of marquee games. They got Notre Dame, but that's looking like that's going to be a blowout now. Yeah, it was just tough, man. But the week 2 college season, early on is upsets everywhere. But the one constant is them damn Bulldogs. Shout out to Kirby Smart. That's that one constant. We gonna do what we need to do. We just gonna keep this thing going. All right, and we gonna see y'all in Atlanta for the SEC championship. Now, before I let y'all go again, follow the podcast, Out the Mud Podcast, on Instagram and on Twitch and on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. My final 4 rankings before we get into the NFL. This week I got Georgia 1. I got Bama at 2, Ohio State 3, and I got USC cracking the top 4. That's my final rankings, and for the end of week 2. And yeah, NFL's on today, about T minus 5 minutes from kickoff. I'll give a recap of the NFL games for week 1 and my thoughts going into week 2. It's now we get rolling. But always continue to show love on the page, and make sure that you continue to always remember where that muddy boost was and how you got to where you are. This is Coach Benny signing off again. Week 2's in the books. We out.